few murderers have left as profound an impact on American pop culture as Ed Gein, also recognized as the Ghoul or Butcher of Plainfield, Wisconsin. Unbeknownst to many, iconic films like Silence of the Lambs, Psycho, and notably The Texas Chainsaw Massacre draw inspiration from the horrifying events that transpired on the Gein family farm and the intricate dynamics between Ed and his mother. In this exploration, we will delve into the life of Ed Gein, examining the crimes he committed and the influential factors that propelled him into the role of the Butcher of Plainfield. Born on August 27, 1906, in LA Cross County to Augusta and George Gein, alongside his older brother Henry, Ed's early life was marked by the challenges posed by his father's alcoholism. Augusta, despite her disdain for her husband, adhered to strict Lutheran principles that prevented her from seeking a divorce. Instead, she directed her efforts toward raising her two sons. The family eventually relocated from LA Cross County to a 155-acre farm in Washoe County, just outside the town of Plainfield, with vast expanses of land at their disposal. Augusta found it convenient to isolate her boys from the outside world, setting the stage for the disturbing events that would unfold. Ed and Henry's excursions beyond the farm were limited to attending school, a freedom that came with strict conditions. They were prohibited from forming friendships, and any violation of this rule would result in severe punishment. Despite these constraints, Ed exhibited peculiar behavior at school, often erupting into spontaneous laughter during class. Peers and teachers presumed it to be his response to personal jokes, oblivious to the true nature of his constrained existence. Within the confines of their farm, Augusta, the boys' mother, imposed her religious beliefs on them, frequently reciting passages from the Bible, particularly those depicting violence from the Old Testament. She also instilled in them a distrust of women, asserting that all women were inherently unvirtuous. Aside from their mother's teachings, Ed and Henry engaged in peculiar chores to contribute to the farm's operations, while their father sought odd jobs in town for financial support. As they transitioned into their teenage years and early adulthood, they found themselves isolated from the outside world, subjected to both physical and mental abuse by their mother. In 1940, the boy's father, George, succumbed to heart failure induced by alcoholism at the age of 66. With their father's demise, Augusta reluctantly eased her tight control, permitting Ed and Henry to venture into town for employment. Henry, following in his father's footsteps, secured jobs involving manual labor, eventually forming a connection with a single mother whom he began dating. On the flip side, Ed developed a fondness for babysitting, discovering a stronger connection with children than adults. Both brothers earned a reputation for honesty and reliability in the community, securing a steady income to sustain. As Henry immersed himself in a romantic relationship with a single mother and distanced himself from farm life, he gradually diverged from his mother's beliefs. Despite Ed's ventures outside of town, he displayed no signs of abandoning their mother's values, causing concern for Henry. In an attempt to sway Ed's opinions, Henry spoke ill of their mother in his presence. However, as events unfolded, this strategy seemed to backfire. On May 16, 1944, Ed and Henry unintentionally started a brush fire on their farm, which quickly spiraled out of control, spreading into the adjacent forest. The brothers became separated, and when local firefighters finally extinguished the flames hours later, Ed claimed ignorance about Henry's whereabouts. A search party, equipped with lanterns and torches, scoured the area for Henry and eventually discovered his lifeless body face down in the forest. Strangely, he exhibited no burns, suggesting that the fire wasn't the cause of death. Evidence of head injuries indicated that someone had likely bludgeoned him hours before the fire was put out. Despite these suspicious circumstances, the police dismissed foul play, opting not to conduct further investigations or an autopsy. In the aftermath, Augusta suffered a stroke, prompting Ed to pledge devoted care for her. Several uneventful months passed until 1945, when Augusta and Indeed, during a visit to purchase straw from a man named Smith, witnessed him brutally beating a dog to death. During the entire incident, an unidentified woman beseeched and implored Smith, attempting to persuade him to spare the dog's life. Surprisingly, Augusta's fury wasn't triggered by the distressing scenes of brutality and animal abuse, but rather by the presence of an unmarried woman on Smith's property. Subsequently, Augusta suffered another stroke, leading to a rapid decline in her health. On December 29th of that year, Augusta Gein passed away at the age of 67, leaving Ed as the sole surviving member of the Gein family and the solitary occupant of the farm, devastated by his mother's death. Ed went to great lengths, boarding up every room in the house where she had spent time, encompassing much of the farmhouse, including the upstairs and the living room. The once organized house deteriorated quickly, becoming decrepit and disheveled. With newfound solitude and the absence of his overbearing mother's watchful eye, Ed immersed himself in reading horror comics, pulp fiction magazines, and medical encyclopedias. 12 years later, on November 16th, 1957, the local community was alarmed when Bernice Worden, the owner of a nearby hardware store, went missing. Witnesses had observed her truck leaving the store premises at 9:30 a.m. that day, and assumptions of closure due to deer season initially explained the store's prolonged shutdown. Deputy Sheriff Worden, Bernice's son, entered the store after a day of closure, only to discover the register left ajar and blood stains on the floor. Frank, the deputy sheriff, observed an antifreeze receipt on the counter, triggering a recollection of a conversation with Ed Gein on the day Ed's mother went missing. In their earlier discussion, Gein had mentioned his intention to return to the store later for antifreeze. Subsequently, Gein was apprehended while finishing dinner at a local coffee shop. Despite Gein's denial of involvement at the coffee shop, the police detained him and conducted a search of the Gein farmstead to uncover any evidence related to Bernice's disappearance. The shocking discovery awaited them, as Bernice Worden's lifeless body was found in a shed, dressed as a deer, having succumbed to a .22 caliber shot to the head. The disturbing revelations continued within the Gein farmhouse. A thorough search exposed numerous bones and bone fragments, along with an assortment of skulls, some repurposed as bowls. The grotesque inventory included a waste basket crafted from human skin, chair seat coverings fashioned from skin, a lampshade made of skin, and a drawstring adorned with a pair of lips. The horrifying inventory extended to clothing made from human remains, such as a corset from a female torso, skin leggings, a belt comprised of female nipples, and 9 meticulously crafted face masks from real faces. Additionally, a chilling collection of body parts was unearthed, featuring a sack containing Bernice Worden's head, her heart in a plastic bag, a shoebox housing 9 external vaginas, the genitals of 15-year-old girls' various organs in the refrigerator, and preserved female fingernails. The investigation also unraveled another missing persons case when the police discovered the skull and face mask of local tavern owner Mary Hogan. Ed Gein confessed to Hogan's murder, as well as admitted to over 40 nocturnal visits to 3 different cemeteries between 1947 and 1952. While Gein professed that he typically departed graves empty-handed, he admitted to occasionally pilfering middle-aged female corpses resembling his mother. He would then tan their skin for use in his disturbing creations. In total, he plundered bodies from 9 different graves and was responsible for the murders of 2 known women. Initially skeptical that a single individual could exhume an entire grave and steal a body in a single night, the police exhumed one of the bodies Ed had mentioned, only to find the grave empty. Ed vehemently denied any engagement in necrophilia, citing the unbearable stench of the corpses. Nevertheless, he crafted a grotesque woman's suit to impersonate his mother, seemingly crawling back into her skin. He meticulously skinned his victims' faces, fashioning them into masks that he wore. During Ed's interrogations, Sheriff Art Sly resorted to physical brutality, repeatedly slamming Ed's head against a brick wall. This act rendered Ed's initial confession inadmissible in court. On November 21st, 1957, Ed faced a charge of first-degree murder, to which he pleaded insanity. Psychiatric evaluations revealed his schizophrenia, leading to his placement in Central State Hospital before a subsequent transfer to Mendota State Hospital. After 11 years of treatment, he was finally deemed stable enough to stand trial. The trial occurred on November 7th of the same year, during which Gein asserted a hazy recollection regarding whether he had actually killed Bernice Worden. He claimed that an accidental discharge of a .22 caliber rifle resulted in Bernice's death, after which he brought her body back to his farm. The trial proceeded without a jury, and the judge pronounced Gein guilty. However, a second trial focused on Ed's sanity ensued, resulting in a verdict of not guilty by reason of insanity. Ed returned to Mendota State Hospital, where he remained until his death on July 26, 1984. Despite plans to auction the Gein family farmhouse and rumors of transforming it into a macabre tourist attraction, mysterious fires consumed the house, preventing any such development. Nevertheless, his vehicle found a new owner in a carnival proprietor who transformed it into a paid attraction named Ed Gein's Ghoul Car. Despite the grim backdrop of Ed Gein's heinous crimes, the public remained captivated, eagerly embracing this morbid spectacle and the trio of films inspired by Gein's life, all of which achieved tremendous popularity. Despite society's condemnation of serial killers, there exists a perverse fascination that often translates into a lasting impact on our pop culture, particularly in America. This phenomenon is vividly exemplified by Ed Gein and the dark cloud he cast over Plainfield, Wisconsin. If you enjoyed this video, please show your support by liking and subscribing to the channel. Share your thoughts on the case in the comments below and suggest any other cases you'd like us to cover in future videos. We look forward to hearing from you in the next one.